Dominican, Black, and Latina. Yes, you can be all three. Despite the taboo modern society that we live in today, these are not separate forms of truths that I can choose from, but rather my identity, my life, who I am, simply. It is time to dissect the roots of my Dominican history and the blackness that I have been denied of for so long. For years, I've had to defend my ancestry and my race, always defending who I am, not who I choose to be. Generalizations have beaten me down, telling singular accounts of who I am and how I was made to be. But today, we will evaluate the story of my history. We will navigate blackness as it is colored all over my culture, and race as it exists, as well as some of the bad parts, like internal racism and colorism, as it also exists on my island. I think it's important to mention that my ancestors are a mixture of Spaniard, Africans, and Tainos. And scholars say that recent literature on blackness in the Americas has dealt with the Dominican case in either of two ways, omission and trivialization. And I think this is true. It's not only in DR where blackness in Dominicans is not being talked about, it's also not being talked about here. So in reality, many Dominicans are not even aware of race as it exists as a social construct because it's not being talked about in either of these places, But our internal racism and our self-hatred has been cultivated for hundreds of years. And I think it can be traced down to in 1844 when we proclaimed so-called independence from Haitians, our people, from our island Hispaniola. And it was then when we began to see the patterns of anti-Haitianism and our own self-hatred and internal racism and colorism that would be passed to generations to follow. However, one of our founding fathers, Juan Pablo Duarte, visioned a multiracial society that was united. He saw through the clouds of mestizaje, and he was an anti-racist who believed that we could all be united, despite color, race, shape. However, his ideals were not enough for the practices that were dispersed by our dictator Trujillo, or Rafael Trujillo. During his regimen, we saw the Parsley Massacre, where they looked to cleanse anyone who looked Haitian, which really meant anyone of darker skin color. This is just one of the thousands of examples that exist to demonstrate the internal colorism that exists in my country. Trujillo also preached and taught anti-Haitianisms in schools, in churches, and anywhere where that information could be reciprocated and passed down to generations to follow. He even powdered his face white during interviews and photographs to appear more European. And all of this to say that, yes, there are hundreds of reasons as to why Dominicans could be in denial of their blackness. But also, how about educate a Dominican on their blackness? How about not choose to opt into the generalization of blackness and of Dominican being in denial of their blackness? For one, I've always been aware of my ancestry, of where I come from, of who I am. And I've always been an unapologetic Black Dominican. Always. But it's hard. It's hard when you're in a society where generalizations are constantly burdening you and people are telling you who you are and who you are not. I cannot tell you about the numerous occasions where I was referred to as the little Spanish girl, and my race was not even taken into consideration because they used how I look to identify me and to profile me, And I challenge you, don't opt into the generalization. Don't go into meeting someone from any particular place and thinking something and having an interpretation as to who they are and what their race is and how they identify as. Let them tell their own story. Let them be like me, the unapologetically, unequivocal Black woman. Thank you.